Well, hello there, and welcome to the Dana Spencer Show, where we talk about solving problems, building relationships, quitting corporate, and the freedom to walk in your God given purpose. So, how are we feeling out there? I hope you all are feeling amazing. This is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And I'm super glad today because I have with me today some amazing guests. So please give me a warm The Dana Spencer Show welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Rodney and Tera Houston. Woo! Welcome to the Dana Spencer Show. How are we feeling?
What introduction.
Nice, nice. Well, I hope you feel that warm welcome that we intended for you to feel on the Dana Spencer Show. And we're just going to jump right in. So, Rodney and Tera. And Tera, you can go first, or Rodney, whichever one. What was it that you wanted to be when you were a little child? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I think for me, I don't think I knew exactly as far as occupation what I wanted to be, but I do know that when I was a little girl, I would get really excited when my parents, we would take afternoon trips on Sunday afternoons after church, and we would drive through neighborhoods and just different neighborhoods that had big houses and things like that. And I would get really excited seeing the big homes. And then also when my mother would take me to Lowe's, I remember getting really excited, like when we would go through the section that had like the bright and shiny chandeliers and things like that. So I was always drawn to things that was related to homes and houses and decor and things like that. So
Awesome, awesome. What about you, Rodney?
Well, if anyone knows me, they'll understand what I'm about to say next. When I was a little boy, my parents would just play like Martin Luther King tapes and civil rights speech tapes and things of that nature. And it would hit me, to me, it seemed like it hit me deeper than other people. And it really grabbed my heart. And so I always thought about growing up and doing something for our community. Whether it be a community activist or just something about our community. Another passion was with that was I'm a musician, so I always wanted to be like a studio engineer or things like that, or a producer. So those, I don't know how those came together, but that passion for my community, the passion for music, always was there for me.
So what do you play instruments? Do you sing? Like what do you do with music?
I was a minister of music for over 20 something years at church. So yeah, I did something with music. I was always captured by the choir when I grew up in my church. The directors and the organ players. It was like the pageantry of it. It was just like it really captured my mind. My uncle played, so he was a great influence in me. So all those years in this seeing that, it had made an impact on me. So
Oh man, you're taking me back because I can remember on the organ. So like way back, they had those like pedals on the ground, and they'd have to move around with their feet, and they have to take their
yes,
shoes off in order to play. Oh man, I'm like
yep.
you. I love the sound of an organ. Like where did see now y'all get me off? Like what happened to the organ? Like why did we get rid of it? It has such an amazing sound.
and the ironic thing is our son is an organist.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, everything you just described is what he does. He takes his shoes off, and he's 18 years old, and he's been playing organ since he was like 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or trying, he
Wow.
couldn't reach the pedals at first. He
He's trying.
started,
Yeah.
yeah. But he's been playing keys since he was 2. But yeah, he's an organist.
Now, does he read music or is he able to play by ear?
He plays by ear mainly, yeah, but he's on staff at a church right now. So he's the organist right now, currently for Bates Memorial Church. So he's one of the organists there, yeah.
Wow. So, okay, so that's what you wanted to be when you grew up. And so then, are either one of you athletes? Did you play any sports growing up?
Not me, he did.
I was my father was an avid baseball player, so that kind of influenced me as well. So I played baseball in Little League for years until I was in high school. Not only that, I was a bowler as well. Had the ability to be a professional. I'm not exaggerating. I was really good. The state champion was ranked nationally, things of that nature. So
So did you just decided not to pursue anything with that?
I went to tournaments and I went to national tournaments, but after 18, when I moved here, I didn't have that same community, so I kind of just went by the wayside. But if you strike up that old feeling again. I'll tell you something about bowling, and you see another side of me. Seriously.
So what I like to say on the Dana Spencer Show, there are so many life lessons that are taught, in my opinion, with sports as well as being a musician. Like I'm a musician as well, and I'll tell anybody that helped to keep me out of trouble. When I think back to like, how come you stayed out of trouble for the most part? It was because I was in the house practicing because I was competitive. So, what are some of the life lessons that you learned from baseball or musicians that you were able to carry into your adult life?
There's so many disciplines that cross over into real life. One is teamwork, and the other is goal setting. Especially as a musician, you're doing week after week. Okay, we got to reach this goal. We got to get these songs down to a certain level to present to the congregation. Goal setting, then reaching those goals. So those are that's skills you need to have in life anyway. So when I got into IT or when I started doing the other things, I was able to have those same skill set. Like this is a goal setting, work as a team, no big I's, no little U's, and just go for excellence. Actually, excellence too, striving for excellence. If you're in team sports, you got to strive for excellence. So
Right.
that's kind of just bleed over into other areas of life. I recommend anyone, woman, boy, girl, to have some type of team sport activity for those reasons I'd express there. So, yep.
And I'm gonna sneak this one in. So, should there be a winner and a loser, or everybody should just win?
No. You need to have a winner. You gotta have a winner. No playing for fun. No, no.
Yeah, I set you up on that one. I apologize.
That's alley oop right there. No.
So, on the Dana Smith Show, we love a good love story. So, how did the two of you meet?
The real story. You want the
You
real
want my
story?
version or you want the real version?
Okay. Okay. I'll take your version and the real story.
No,
Yeah.
I was a smooth cat and she just loved me. That's what it was.
Oh, you was a smooth operator.
Yeah, that's the version I like.
All right, Tara, tell us the truth.
We both worked at National Processing Company, and that building doesn't even exist anymore. They knocked that down.
Yeah.
But NPC, and he was one of the IT people there. And so I was working in customer service or something. And anyway, he used to walk back and forth down my aisle a lot. And
On
so
purpose.
he's on purpose. And that's how we met. So we met at work. And the story is he took me to lunch one day to Applebee's. And he liked the way that I wasn't timid when eating the riblets.
She was real.
I was real.
You got with
Yes.
them ribs.
Yes.
Yep. And that's how we met. So we didn't have a long like dating period or a long engagement at all. So after we got engaged, we only stayed engaged for a few months, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we got married and that was it. And we've been married almost 22 years. So
Oh wow. So what would you say to those maybe some college students, some athletes, some younger people who might be listening? What are some good tips that they can look for in a potential mate?
The key word, like you said, is potential. Like there's some key things that you would look for. To me, it was like integrity. Well, my thing was I wanted him to be a Christian. So that was like a deal breaker for me. But also, I think a lot of times now, this generation, they want people to have everything now, but like you said, potential. And so, like, he didn't have everything now. He didn't have everything then, but he had the potential, and he was nice and he had integrity. So you don't always have to have everything, you sometimes you have to build together. So, and that's what we've done.
Anything to add to that, Rodney, as far as some tips for the brothers out there?
When a man knows, he knows.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't looking. I didn't think I'd be married I don't know. Just taking some time off to myself. But when a man knows, he knows. They don't take all this No, let me see, all this vacillating things. Like, when he knows, and he makes a decision quickly. At least for me.
Okay. Wow. Look, I'm kind of stunned on that one. Okay. Look, I'm gonna have to process that one. So how did your path cross with real estate?
It's funny because, like I said, I knew that I had those things that I liked as a little girl. And then also at one time I had wanted to be an interior designer. That's what they called it at the time, or interior decorator. And so I had started working with Cherry House Furniture Company. There's still one of them exists that's in LaGrange, but there was one at Hurstbourne at the time. And so they had a design studio in there. So I couldn't afford the interior design school. It was so expensive. So I don't know how I learned about Cherry House, but long story short, they would teach you everything. So you weren't just doing sales, like you actually had to design rooms for clients. So I actually got to work with official interior designers who did have their degree in interior design, and they would design rooms also for like Homeorama, things like that. And so I learned a lot. So that started really sparking my interest even more, and also in floral design. So it just kind of, I always had like this love for anything that had to do with decor, even with jewelry. So for a while, I even did direct sales with a jewelry company, but then I ended up doing it on my own with a sole proprietorship. And at the time, it seemed like it didn't connect all of those things. But when I thought of it, like I said, it was all kind of the same, because then I kind of moved into home staging. So for me, it was like this soft entry. But then I didn't know, I forget what conversation we had, but I didn't know that he had a love for real estate also, because his mom and dad had owned property when he was growing up. So, and I think for a short period of time, my mom and dad did too, as far as a rental property. But I think, like I said, that kind of started, and I forget the conversation, but it just kind of came out, and we had been married for a while. And I said, "Oh, I didn't know you were interested like that." I know that when we were dating, he would ride me around different areas and talk about things that, properties he had been interested in, but it never went really deep. But the funny thing is, when we were dating, he had mentioned to me something about a home, like, would I like a home? And I said, yeah, because I always have loved houses. And he said, one day I'm going to buy you a house. And so yeah, and he's bought me several houses since then. So
Saying
okay, smooth operator.
I would say for me, they said more is caught than taught. You know what I'm saying? And as I look back over my life, my grandfather, who we used to call Big Daddy, he had property. And I think he influenced my father. And my father had a 2-family home, but it never made the connection all these years, And I was wondering, how would people make that move? But really, what made me get to real estate, I was looking for something that would be passive, because I was tired of working corporate America, the politics of being more qualified than your boss. The politics of seeing people come off the street making just as much as you are, and you have more education. Read between the lines what I'm saying something. And so how can I have a vehicle that will allow me to take care of my family, that have the time to take care of our parents if need to be, or be a credit to our community if need be, and have that time and flexibility to enjoy life. And so I thought about real estate being a vehicle to do that. So more of a tool to do what I really want to do, is to be helpful back to the community, or even back to my church, have the freedom to be full-time ministry if I have to be, So as I was going through and educating myself, I started realizing that some of the stuff that, like homeowner financing, our first house when I was a baby, my grandfather, what we call Big Daddy, financed our first home to my parents. I didn't know this. I was like, oh, they did homeowner financing. I'm like, wow. It was a middle class neighborhood, things of that nature. And so all these pieces are coming together. I said, well, this could be a vehicle where I could really take care of my family. It could be a vehicle where I can pass on to my kids. It could be a vehicle where just have freedom. So in our later years, we could have time together as a husband and wife and be fairly young and still in health and good health. So,
yeah. Did you tell her where you were from? Where you were raised?
no.
Oh, he was raised. You tell her where you were raised.
I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in Cleveland I was listening to a podcast several months ago where an investor only invested in Cleveland. So, do you invest in Cleveland now?
I'm looking.
Yeah.
I almost bought a home in my old neighborhood, but
yeah.
the inspection failed. But anyway, yeah, but it's a great market. It's like a miniature Chicago without the price. Yeah. And it's very affordable. Reason being because Cleveland at one time was like the 8th or 7th largest city in America. And because of the population growth they had back in the 50s, they have a gluttony of duplexes and two-family homes. And so when the population shrunk, you had a lot of homes that are available and the prices tanked, basically. So you have a city that's a big city amenities, but not the population.
Yeah, and so you have the rail systems and all of those things. And like he said, here, like in Louisville, it's getting a duplex is harder and it's more expensive. Whereas in Cleveland, you can go on the street and the whole street is what they call two families, where they're more, I'm sure they have duplexes, but I see not just like duplexes that are side by side, but they have like these two families, like a full house on top of another house. And they're big.
1,200 square feet each.
Yeah, at least 1,200 square feet.
Sometimes 1,500.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 1,500, where like two whole families can live above and below each other, and like I said, whole streets of them. So, it's more common there.
Wow. So, Rodney, you had mentioned that, and either one of you had mentioned the fact that I think you were at IT for corporate, and now sounds like, have you transitioned away from corporate, or are you still working corporate?
Halfway. I'm a consultant right now.
Okay.
Got still pay bills while you're still building your empire.
But to your point, tell us how, and this is the part that I love about real estate, is real estate gives you options. So when you have where you potentially have enough passive income coming in to cover your bills, and now when that boss starts talking slick, like, you have options, like you realize you can do more. And to your point about being more qualified than the boss that they bring in because they didn't promote from within, like, why is it so important to have options?
You gotta have what you call peace out money.
I love that. I call it deuces.
You gotta have that, and I'm still building that. Almost there, because I told my last time I was able to do that partly because of real estate, and so we're looking for a few more properties, and we'll be where we need to be. You just don't want to be a slave to anybody. To be honest with you, and that's another pressure, mentally, spiritually. That's depressing. To be somewhere you have to be, not because you want to be. To me, nowadays, wealth is the time that you dictate, not time dictating to you. And so real estate can be a vehicle for that, or any other business for that matter. But I just chose real estate as the vehicle.
Yeah, and like you always say too, like when you are financially bound, it sometimes will put you in a position where you have to compromise on things.
Or the temptation
to compromise
would be great.
Yeah,
especially as a man, if you charge with taking care of a family, and someone's talking slick to you, or say you got to do such thing to keep this job, that's gonna be really heavily on your mind. Any man worth his salt. You see those babies, they're depending on you. Your wife is depending on you, so you don't want to be in that type of position for your own mentality and your own spirituality.
Oh, for sure. So are you all mostly flipping houses or buying and hold? Like, what's your strategy right now? Because sounds like you want to get more property. So what's your primary strategy?
We started off with one flip.
Yeah, we started
and
off
quickly found out that's not my personality.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. This is the holding costs, the capital gains taxes, things of that nature. Plus, I don't want like I was telling my son, you don't want to be in a position where you're chasing a check. So, and according to my personality and where I'm made up, and I think my wife is too, I really have the passive income coming in. Something more guaranteed. So if you do it one time, it pays you over a lifetime. Whereas flipping, you got to keep doing it over and over, finding a deal, managing contractors, holding costs, hoping you get a sale. That thing will last like 6 or 7 months. Too many variables for me, my personality. Someone else could be very successful at it, but it's not their personality. But I'd rather have the passive income for the buy and hold strategy.
Well, and I love that you keep referring to your personality style, because one of the things that I do for all of my students and all of the people that I work with is give them an assessment, and that helps me to understand their personality. So I love that you keep referring to your personality style, because what I go over in my course is that at the beginning, understanding your personality style is going to help, and it's going to show up in investing in real estate. For example, for the most part, when things start to get hard, either you want to stay around and fight people, or you want to take flight. And so when it gets tough, it's like, what do you end up doing? So I love that you keep referring to your personality. How has understanding your personality helped you as far as investing in real estate and being honest with yourself regarding your personality preference?
Well, I came to a conclusion when you make mistakes. I came to that conclusion because real estate you can win, but you can get some losses too, and then you learn the lessons when the losses more than the wins. And I said, why are you doing this? Like, I was trying to wholesale before. It's like, I'm not that person who keep pounding the pavement. That's not me. But I'd rather do a good job one time and have it pay dividends over a lifetime. That fits me. It's freedom to me. The other ones seem more like a job.
Right.
And so obviously you didn't want to leave corporate in order to come to another job.
Right.
It's a job for a job. Yeah, I love that. That's so smart. And Tera, you were talking about how you realize that you like to stage property and your interior design. How has that innate desire showed up with investing in real estate?
I started out when we did our flips that I would stage the property. Well, the one flip, I staged the property, and I had a real estate agent who invested in me, and she allowed me to help her stage a property as well that she had for sale. But yeah, so that's where that love grew. And then also, as we'll talk about more later, we have a furnished rental property as well. So I set those up as well. And stage that.
So. Well, let's lead into that. Go ahead, Rodney.
Say this as a credit to her. Our first flip was successful because of her staging. I believe it helped sell the property because the staging, it was immaculate. I mean, it was really good. It really was. I can't say more about it. Even with the furnished rental, she's got an eye for it, and so that having that ability, I think, really helped us. Because if it wasn't for that first flip would have been a disaster. We didn't know anything. We just went out there and just did it.
Yeah, it almost flipped us, but God is good.
So your flip almost flopped.
Yeah.
But God is good though, because we did good though.
We paid too much for the property, and had a handyman for the flip. We just didn't know.
Oh my!
Use our own money, not other people's money. It was just crazy. Yeah. It was crazy.
But I love how each one of your skill sets, clearly you each bring something different to the table, and it works for you. I love that. Yeah. And so to your point with staging houses, some people can't see it. And since you are able to help people to see it, that definitely does, increase the value and increase the desire for the property. So do you continue? So what do you do now? How have you continued to use that gift in, what you all are doing today and now?
Yeah, like I said, it's mostly like in like the furnished rentals, which is what I enjoy the most. That's my favorite part. Like, honestly, I always say tenants are not my spiritual gift. We do have tenants. I'm sorry. We have tenants, and I thank God for them, but that's not my spiritual gift. So I always say those are his tenants.
We had good ones.
I know we have some good
We
tenants.
had some good ones.
Yes, we have had some, and we do have some good tenants. Yes, yes.
But that's just not your personality
my
type.
spiritual gift. No, that's not. That's not.
This,
I like the empty houses. Like I want them to be filled eventually, but when I'm dealing with the homes, I prefer them empty. And I like to decorate. I love that, and so I'm the one between the two of us. Well, I can't say that, but I know I'm a person. I'm looking at houses all the time, so I hardly ever turn the TV on in the house. Like I don't hardly watch TV at all. Like my pastime is I'm looking at property. I just love houses, and I don't think I'll ever stop loving houses. So, so that's what I'm usually doing. I'm the one that's usually like, hey, look at this property. That's me. And I'll send it to him. He's the numbers guy, like down to the penny. He's the numbers guy and the formulas guy. That's him. And then, like I said, then I come in, like when he does the contractors too, for the most part, depending on what they are, but
yeah.
So in the, because we rehab all the properties that we acquire. So, and I don't enjoy that as much, like dealing with the contractors and things like that. But once the contractors are out, then that's where I come in, with the decor and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, and everybody, the million-dollar question always is, how and where do you find good contractors? So Rodney, what's the million-dollar answer to how do you find good contractors? How do you vet them? What's the secret sauce?
You let me know. I'm still looking.
Well, we have some good ones. I think that was more word of mouth.
Yeah.
The ones that we have that are really good, I think they're word of mouth.
Yeah. But we have a good electrician.
Yeah.
We have a good handyman. But one rehab we had to do, I fired everyone.
So tell us more about that. I don't
even want to go back. There's PTSD.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, we had one, and it had and okay, let me back up. It was a good property. If I had an idea of adding a master suite, a bathroom, and so it requires me to, hire a plumber and get the permits and all those good things, whatever they're going to do. Well, this one plumber had hired crackheads, meth heads. Messed up my timeline because I had a tenant already ready to move in. So our timeline went like 3 or 4 months over.
Yeah.
So we missed out on the tenant.
Mm-hmm.
I had an investor, had to pay them back, so it was kind of messy at first, but ended up being a good rehab because we actually, when we added the master bath, it exponentially brought value to the house. So yeah, also had to fire the drywall guy.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Found out the electrician did some shady stuff. Had to get that refixed. It was started as a disaster. I thought I was gonna lose a lot of money off of it.
So even though it started off rough with real estate, the cool thing is that it sounds like you were still able to. Were you able to make money in that deal, or you ended up losing some money? You were still able to make some money.
Yeah, make some money.
Yeah, and we're still holding that property. So that ended up being one of our long-term holds.
So Rodney, you're a numbers person. Tell us about the deal that was most impactful to you. Kind of unpack that for us.
I would say the last one. I went outside my formula. It was a very right outside my comfort zone. But the reason I did it because I was looking at another way. I was doing calculations. So most of the time, people want to have a $200, $300 spread, right, on your buy and holds. But how can we make more per property? And so this property came up, and it had a large garage on it.
Property I found.
Yeah. But we got to a little bit of a bidding war, and I said, okay, I'm going about 5, maybe 10,000 over as what I'm comfortable doing. Only reason I did it because it had this big commercial sized garage on there, and it also had a 12 by 12 shed on the property.
Yeah.
So normally it's just normal ranch house, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, nice things like that. I said, well, wait a minute, this is opportunity cost here, and so either I can make this an ADU, or I can rent out both sides, and I can rent out the shed, and that's at least $500 extra a month. So over long haul, we probably went out on it. And so right now we it's retail for us $200 each side for the garage, and the shed is about $100 a month. So you're looking about $500 extra a month in addition to the rents that we would get.
So are you renting the garage out to the people who live there, or somebody completely different?
Somebody different.
So it's kind of like we created our own multifamily with that.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, the garage was huge. The garage was as big as the house. So it's a 4-car garage. And yeah, and it's huge. It's a huge garage. So
yes.
Yeah, it's a very rare.
About 1,100 square feet.
Yeah, 11 or 12. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, the garage. Yeah.
So how are you able to figure out what's the highest and best use for? I mean, how are you able to look at this property and say, how can I create more income from the property and see a third eye, an investor eye, see something more in the property than what other people could see?
It just came to me when it was on a property.
Well, honestly, that's what attracted me to the property was that garage. When I saw it, it wasn't the house. It was the garage, and I was like, "Oh."
I thought we could use it as an ADU at first.
Yeah, yeah, and that could still be a possibility down the road. Just at the time, for us, the money going into converting it to actual living space, it wasn't the time for that.
Yeah, it's just with interest rates coming up. I didn't think I'd be able to get our money out. So at the present, at the very least, we could rent out the space of storage.
Mm-hmm. So have you all heard, I mean, I must pass several places where they have those U-Haul trucks. And I've heard that you can get, X amount for having a U-Haul on your property, and so many. That's how they tell us that we can see how, a lot of people are coming in Louisville and staying because of the U-Haul. Have you all checked into that?
No.
Okay.
Play that again. What were you saying as far as a U-Haul?
So, obviously people rent U-Hauls, and then the U-Haul truck ends up staying wherever the people live. And so on Dixie Highway in particular, there's like 10 U-Haul trucks. And now the old Bank of Louisville on 34th and Algonquin Parkway, now that's like a U-Haul station. And I'm like, so is it that much money in U-Hauls where you would buy what used to be a bank, turn it into a U-Haul facility where you're going to store U-Haul trucks on the property? So I haven't checked into it, but I do know that you're supposed to be able to get X amount per U-Haul truck if you allow the truck to stay on your property.
Oh, I heard that. Not the U-Haul specifically, but a truck yard. I heard about the using like parking lots, like you have parking lots down top of cars. If you are invest into a parking lot for trucks, you can make pretty good money according to the spaces that you have. Yeah. So it seemed like the same principle with the U-Haul. Yeah.
And then there was a couple that I interviewed. They had I think they're in Pennsylvania. They had a 7-car garage, and it basically was almost like a short-term rental for cars. So you know how a lot of people have apartments and they don't have room to put their car in the garage, like their luxury car, like the winter car that needs to stay someplace because it's got the rims or whatever. I mean, I thought that was a cool idea as well. Almost like a storehouse for cars.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, that word options, real estate, there are so many options with real estate.
Yes, it is.
So where are you all headed next? What are some of your goals? I know you talked about goals in the beginning. Where do you see yourself in the next, 3 to 5 years?
Similar strategy. looking for more income streams per property, not more properties per se.
Right.
Yes, more properties, but not as many.
Yeah.
And when we first got into it, I said maybe I was saying $300 a month. Maybe if I get 20 properties making $300 a month, we'd be okay. I said, man, that can be hard to do. That's kind of cumbersome. Plus, you have to hire, at that point, you have to hire, property managers, things like that. But what can we do to have the same impact with less property?
Right. How to maximize the properties you have, and like you said, get more bang for your buck without having so many different properties. You cut down on so many costs, insurance, the keeping up of the yard, the maintenance, with all those different properties. So that's kind of what we're thinking.
So you got multifamily options, you have other options like group, the sharing. It's a plethora of opportunities to do that. Like I have storage units on your property. There's a lot of things. The options are endless, really, if you think about it. But the whole process, whole thought behind it is, how can I make more property per property?
More profit.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm playing on words.
Gotcha.
Property or
Gotcha.
profit per property. Like, there was a guy. It was a preacher named Jones. The last name after the Bethany Church in Brooklyn. He said, I don't want too many members. That'd be fine if I got 1,000 members, but what I really want is more member per member. Meaning, when people would be effective in the ministry, it'd be better have them be stronger in Christ rather have 1,000 people. So I had that same principle: more property per property, more profit per property. So that's where I got it from.
Right. Absolutely. Now, a lot of times the biggest stumbling block for people with getting started investing in real estate is having the capital. So in terms of the initial capital that you needed in order to get started, like, where did that come? Did your parents, leave y'all thousands of dollars and you're able to, invest use that money to invest? Like, how were you able to get started initially?
I'll say the seller of our first home.
Yeah, our first home that we sold.
You want to tell that story? Because it was really incredible, actually.
What do you mean?
How we really got into it with the rental of our first home.
Yeah. We became unintentional landlords. And again, it was because of me always looking at houses. And so it was about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was right after Christmas. And I was online looking at houses because I just love houses. And I saw the house we live in now. And so, but mind you, our home we lived in wasn't for sale. It wasn't on the market, any of that. And so we came and looked at the house we live in now, and the rest is history. About a month later,
right, I wasn't gonna move.
Oh yeah, he wasn't gonna move. He wasn't moving. He wasn't doing it. But anyway, we ended up closing on the house about a month and a half later. So now we were like, okay, what are we gonna do with our first house? So the first house, we loved it because we were very involved in the neighborhood. I served on the board. It was in Park Duval. I was a board member for like 7 years, block captain, all of that. He was too. So long story short, we ended up renting it out. We rented it out for about a year.
We never had to pay the mortgage on it.
Yeah, God just blessed us. We never paid a mortgage. So we never had to pay 2 mortgages. Like, it was just very seamless. We moved into this house and then someone else moved right in. And that's how we became landlord.
We moved into this house in February. Somebody else moved into the other house in March.
Yeah. And so we ended up having 2 houses. So that got us started. So we rented that out for about a year and we decided to sell it eventually. And so we used that money to keep investing in real estate. So.
Our first deal came from that. Had I known, I would have did it differently. Huh?
That just goes to show you the importance of how you were able to use the capital from your first house. So if you're renting, like, you don't have that. If I've only rented my entire life, then I don't even have property to sell to even get started. So if someone is out there who is renting, what advice would you give them why it's so important to jump out there and buy your first property?
For one, nowadays the mortgage is cheaper than rent. And then a property itself, to give you so many avenues. We didn't even know this. like lines of credit on your home. You have your car insurance will go down, especially if you bundle it with your homeowner's insurance. There's so many things. Your property, it really can act like a bank.
Yeah,
it gives you so many options.
And I think a lot of African Americans, sometimes we don't know those things. We've been kind of cut off sometimes from that, and so that's another passion of ours too. Just educating people on those type of things. Yeah.
So do you all have a program or in order to actively mentor additional people, or how does that look like? If somebody's out there like, man, I want to be like Rodney and Tera, like they sound like they got it going on. Do you all have a program, or how can they get in touch with you all?
Nothing official.
I mean, not with that per se yet. Yeah. I do have, so officially, I am a life coach. And my life coaching business is called Chrysalis Life Coaching. So, and underneath that life coaching business, I do have an official mentoring program, which is right now we're in JCPS in the schools. And we're working with, right now specifically, we work with information technology. And we also, I have a grief and loss group, but I am also, as I've talked to you before, curious. I mean, not curious, but what am I trying to say? I am very passionate about taking real estate and teaching the kids also about that. Not just kids, young men. He has a passion for working with young men. He's worked with young men that were in the youth detention center, things like that, just giving them different options. So yeah, that is something that I am definitely working on adding to my mentoring with the public schools. So yeah.
And we have helped one couple get started.
Yeah.
We have owner finance one of our properties to them to get them started in their first rental.
So owner financing, can you tell our listeners what that means?
Basically, I'm the bank. Instead of we're still going through a normal closing, but basically I'm the bank, and they gave me a down payment and everything, give me monthly payments until the maturity date, and we're gonna settle up.
Yeah, and that could go. Some people are not, in favor of that. It can be risky, I think, for the lender. It can be. Yeah, it can be.
It's an airtight contract.
Yeah,
and you have to have a real estate attorney to look over it and make sure it's okay. Have your I's dotted and T's crossed, but it should be okay.
Yeah.
So and somebody you trust.
Yeah, someone we trusted. Yeah, that's what definitely. I'm trying to say.
People have integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. So in terms of, seller financing and creative, sounds like that you're able to do like creative things with your real estate, being the bank. And what are some of the are there any other creative things that you have out there up your sleeve?
I would say private funding. We done it twice and it was successful, and we were able to get people their money back. That's another way of funding a deal. Especially, we went back to the a person who might be renting. That's one way. If you have somebody that has the capital, they could make passive income by funding your deal. So one of the strategies I use is someone would give me, let's say something small like $20,000. I would say I pay 10% on top of that when all the deal is done. So I get $2,000 back within 2 months or 3 months. Because most of our rehab deals only go for maybe 6 weeks. So it's hard to beat that on the market. You can't beat that on the stock market.
So what does that conversation look like? Do you have a rich uncle or a professional in your life? Because I encourage people to do that as well. And just because you don't have money doesn't mean other people don't have money.
Right.
Because I think the mindset of people who don't have any money is that nobody has money. But yeah, we're not going to go there. But so what does that conversation look like? How do you find somebody with money? And what do you say to them? Like, oh, I'm going to get started investing in real estate. Will you front me 50 grand? Like, how does that conversation go?
It's really a person that you have a relationship with, maybe a family member, maybe a really close friend. And it really helps someone already in the industry. He kind of knows how the ropes of it. They may not be a seasoned investor, but they do know something about real estate or investing. They're kind of financially savvy themselves. I was going to say, I kind of drew a blank here. I was going to make a point. But yeah, but have a person who, there are a lot of people who have like 401ks and IRAs, the money is sitting there. And they like being in real estate, but they don't want to swing a hammer. They want to do it with contractors, but they can make passive income. They're to beat the market, because a lot of times with the stock market, you get about 7% back. But like I said, I give you 10 to 12% back within 6 weeks or 8 weeks. Oh, they sign up for that. Especially people who are savvy with their money. They understand that terminology.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I'm gonna let people use that one. So that's not an excuse. Not having the money yourself is not an excuse. So you said the word that I was looking for as well is relationships. How important is it to build relationships? We see it in real estate investing, but you need it in every area of your life. But in real estate in particular, how important is it to build relationships?
Very. I'm still trying to build relationships. I was at a real estate meeting like 2 months ago, and the guy was bragging, and it kind of made me mad. He said, "I haven't filled out a credit application in 20 years." God, he knows the CEOs of the banks or the credit unions, and they recommend him to other credit unions when he get to his limit. And I'm like, wouldn't it be nice? But again, it comes back to relationships. I know of another story where a guy was given a wholesale deal just to get him started because of the relationship. The guy was a big guru in the area, and to get the guy started, said, "Well, talk to this other guy, and you're gonna sell this property to him and make $20,000." I don't have those relationships right now. I do have some relationships, but not to that level. And a lot of times we kind of certain people kind of locked out of those conversations. I'm gonna leave it at that. But I'm still building. That's no excuse. We can still build with the network that we have.
How important is it to get around people who are, and I've been thinking about this, producers versus consumers? How important is it to get around people who are ahead of the process? So, if we just stay in our little pack with the people that we know and the people that we're renting from, how important is it to like get outside of our comfort zone and meet new people and build these new relationships?
Very. I'll use my son as an example. Very talented musician, but I've seen his playing take a leap when he started hanging around professional musicians. As long as he stayed around his own peer group, where he's like the number one guy, he's plateaued. But I seen him take to another level when he started hanging around guys who played on albums and been national recording artists and things of that nature. Same thing with me when I was a bowler. As long as I was hanging around I crushed people in my age group, but when I started hanging around my brother-in-law and people who were better than me, it pushed me to be better. And so in real estate, you need to be around people who are more experienced than you. If they say you should have somebody that you're mentoring, you should have a peer, you should have a mentor. And so all those 3 levels will help you become a better well-rounded person. So that mentor will help you push you to the next level. And also, another thing is you all speaking the same language, you all have the same interests. And so there'd be a source of encouragement for you.
Yeah, that's so good.
A lot of people understand what you're doing with the real estate and say, well, you shouldn't be doing that. That's a waste of money. You can lose all your retirement. You're going to do all this. It could be kind of negative. But if you're around people of like mind, they can help push you and motivate you when you on those days like, man, I can't do this. No, yes, you can. I messed up this deal. I lost $25,000 on this deal. But stay in the game. You can make it back up.
All right. I think this is the last question before I let you all go. Well, question before last question. So I know you talked about, Tera, you talked about his tenants were the long term. And I know that you like staging. So what is your bread and butter like right now? What do you prefer to do? And I know you said you all talked a lot about, trying to get the most out of one property instead of having to have, several properties. So what are you all doing now to get the most out of, the properties that you have?
For me, it's the furnished rental. So what I have found, I have a love for the midterm, what I call a midterm rental. I think initially I thought about short-term rental because that's the only thing that I knew that was connected to furnished rentals, which is, everyone stereotypically calls it your Airbnbs. renting for a few days and then turnover and then you get new
work.
And I remember we went to one real estate meeting downtown about a couple years ago or something. And it was all about Airbnbs. It was a lot of good information. And when we left, he looked at me, he said, "So what do you think?" And I just sound like a bunch of work. Too much work for me, and then just the turnover, and I'm just not looking for that. Now, for some people, they like that. They like constantly being busy, but I have a love for real estate. I really do. But I have a love for other things as well. And I'm still a mom. We're entering into what they call that sandwich generation where as your parents grow older, they may start to need you more. But I still have a son who, kids who need us. So you're kind of in that sandwich generation. And so I don't want, like you said earlier, this to be a job, And so anyway, and so I'm a researcher. I'm always researching things, and I just fell into the sweet spot of the midterm rental. So I don't rent our furnished property for anything less than 30 days. I won't rent it less than 30 days. On average, I've rented about 12 weeks. Typically, when I get a tenant for that, typically they're there for 12 weeks. So we have a cross section of people who rent that property, mostly traveling professionals, things like that. But so, yeah. And then also I didn't want to deal with, when you deal with like the short-term rentals, you have different types of ordinances you have to deal with. Like in some neighborhoods, you have to get the approval of the other residents and have meetings. And I just wasn't interested in that. And I wasn't interested in, like I said, the turnover, having to get it cleaned, and then your linens. And for some people, they love it. And I know they're very lucrative, but it just depends on what you value the most. And for me, my time is just as lucrative as the income. And it still is lucrative. I mean, don't get me wrong, you still make more money on midterms than you do on just a normal rental. But it's the sweet spot for me. Yeah, for me.
Now, do you furnish just your properties that you all have, or would you consider doing this for other people? Like, let's say if we have listeners out there who are like, man, if Rodney talked about your first flip and how amazing that it looks, so we can only imagine that your midterms look equally as amazing. What if somebody's out there like, man, Tera, would you stage my property?
I would be open to it. I would be open to the discussion for sure. Because I've learned there is a science. Like, I've always been a person who likes to decorate, but decorating is not necessarily the same. Like, an interior designer is not necessarily the same as a stager. You know what I mean? There's a difference. When you stage a home, it has to be something that anybody can feel comfortable in, not just your personality. So, to be honest, like, sometimes when I stage, it's not necessarily something that I would have chosen if it was where I was going to live. I might like it, but I have to think differently, if that makes sense.
Oh, I love that. Because and here's the thing. I was at a short-term rental in Atlanta, and I have friends that do short-term rentals, but I was in there like, this is I'm like, she probably spent a fortune, because I just believe that her house probably looked the way this short-term rental looked. And all of that just wasn't necessary. I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't necessary for, the need, or, how much she could, potentially get it rented for. But I love that you have a knack for, I'm not going to live here, but I know how it should look.
Yeah, how it should function. It's about functionality, yeah.
And catering to the people who your target is, the professionals, the nurses, and their lifestyle, as opposed to if you were going to stay there every single day and live there.
Right.
Love, yeah, okay. So if we're going to put a bow on this entire conversation, like, what's the one thing, or what's the couple of things that each of you would want our listeners to know and to walk away with?
Freedom. Freedom. Whether it's real estate, whether it's a Amazon, online cart, whatever it is, find your niche because there's freedom in your niche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We are in a country in a time in history where you can't depend on a pension. And if you do depend on a pension, you're in your late 60s, early 70s. Life is too short.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom and time is wealth. I know everybody's looking for the 6 figures and even 7 figures, but if you got to spend 80 hours a week to doing it, is that really wealth? So freedom and time as well.
Yeah. And for me, and this is the life coach part of me, as you see, my hat says go getter, but it's walking in your purpose, because I always say that walking in your purpose leaves no room for jealousy or comparison. So when I'm walking in my purpose, I'm not concerned about what other people are doing. I can applaud other people, but it leaves no room for that. And also another thing I always say to my clients in my life coaching business is strive for excellence and not perfection. You know, so have a spirit of excellence, but just know like things are not gonna always be perfect. You're gonna make mistakes. You know, like we shared some of the mistakes we've made in real estate or what. So in other words, don't let the fact that you may make a mistake stop you from pursuing something. Like I just went back to college and finished my degree. That was about a year and a half ago. I was still young, but I was an old student. I was 43 before I finished my first degree. So I'm just saying, like, and society will say it's too late, but it's not too late. So don't be afraid to step out. Yeah.
I will also say, not to belabor, but walk in integrity. Especially if you're dealing with other people's money. You take the loss because your name, your reputation is worth more than gold. Yeah. And I come from a Christian perspective. You got to have integrity in this. Whatever you do, that's paramount. That should be number one. Then the freedom, then the time as well. Yeah. Because seek ye first the kingdom of God, all your things be added unto you, which is the motto of our company.
So if people want to reach out to you all, if they need some life coaching, if they want some coaching with real estate, like how can they contact you? Are you on social media? Do you have a website? Do you have a phone number? Like how can the people get to you?
We have different means, but I would say you can reach me through my website, which is www.mychrysalislife.com. Again, that's mychrysalislife.com. Chrysalis is CHRYSALIS.
And so I will put that link in the description as well. Absolutely.
Yeah. They can reach us that way. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you all so much for stopping in on the Dana Spencer Show. We certainly do appreciate it. And remember, walk in integrity. Until next time, thank you for tuning in to the Dana Spencer Show.
Thanks for having us.